is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 98. My name is Zach Cram, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. Here on a Wednesday, midweek in Austin, Texas. A little bit bleak outside, a little cloudy today. But I don't know about you. My spirits, when it comes to Austin FC, are about as high as they could possibly be with the team being eliminated before decision day. And most of that is because our new sporting director came out, gave his press conference yesterday. But before we dive into all that, of course, we'll also dive into the Western Conference final preview for Austin FC 2. Talk about the offseason calendar that was released by the league yesterday, and of course, the nonsense at the end. How are you feeling here in the midweek, eh?
My spirits are high as well. I'm fresh off rewatching that presser again and taking it all in and dissecting it and understanding it to the best of my ability. So I'm definitely excited about that, excited to talk about it. Other than that, yeah, the weather's a little drizzly. I was outside with Mooch Man for a walk, and it was nice not to be baking, which welcome sight for this time of year. But man, well, look, we don't have to talk about a loss, which is good.
True.
We also have the Western Conference finals to look forward to with the FCito boys, and I'm super excited for them. I think we can get Colorado this time. You see the same team that many times. Eventually you can tag them. So looking forward to talking about that as well. And yeah, man, I'm feeling pretty good.
Hey, it's hard to beat a team 4 times in a season, right?
Yeah.
We'll get to that. I think that's a good point about, we're not having to come in here and recap a disappointing game, whether it was a loss or a draw, which has been the majority of our episodes since mid-July. So yeah, maybe just in better spirits in that manner as well. We talked about on episode 97, Sunday night's episode, about the press release that the team put out on that or that afternoon rather, referencing the changes with the scouting department. Full clean in house, Rodo bringing in his own handpicked guys, 5 scouts to be exact. Europe, South America, all that. We talked about them backing the coach, right? Josh Wolf will be here at least to start the 2024 season, and then Sean Rubio departing. We did get, so we can put this in our rearview mirror, we did get Sean's destination. He's going back to Toronto FC, appointed as their technical director. So congrats to him on the move, and we'll certainly be watching Toronto, and he's, Sean's going to be a big part of trying to rebuild what they've got going on over there. The highest roster spend in MLS there in Toronto, and they have clinched the wooden spoon. How about that?
Congrats and good luck, my friend. That's that's going to be quite the undertaking. Yeah. But I'm also, man, just super excited to get those 5 scouts names. I know Rodo teased it a little bit, but I'm ready, baby. We're going to jump on the interwebs and learn everything about you.
And I think we can go ahead. Let's just start talking about everything that came from this press conference yesterday, because almost an hour long on the recording there. And that recording, I don't know if it was just my computer or what, but it cut out for me multiple times.
Same.
For like 15 seconds at a time.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't quite get all of it. And of course, there's Rodo, bilingual, multiple answers in Spanish, which again, I've never been more disappointed in 15-year-old ZG for dicking around in Spanish class all year and not learning anything than over the last, 3 years with this club and wishing I could understand everything that our players said. And now, of course, Rodolfo Borrell, and as I've said in the past too, like our Spanish content creators that we have in the community. I just, maybe I need to get on that Duolingo and just start picking it up, every day.
Don't worry, 15-year-old E was also not paying attention. Never had any idea I'd be following a a soccer club in Austin with, bilingual employees and journalists floating around. But, I was just super disappointed every time. I was like, damn it. I don't know what's going on now.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned wanting to know the names of those scouts. I believe Rodo said that those names will be revealed once the regular season ends. So certainly looking forward to that. In the first question, again, I don't think I wrote this down just word for word, but the first two questions, I forget who asked them, but were, what are the main goals with this new, the revamped scouting department, right? And then what's going on with Josh Wolf? I want to say it was like, what do you see in Coach Wolf that makes you back him, so strongly? And I guess with the second part first, talking about Josh, he said, I need to look for not only the short-term or the midterm view, but the long-term view as well, saying I'm responsible for all of those things, and having, the various perspectives in the job that he deems necessary. He says, I think the best decision at this point is to stay with Josh and his coaching staff. We are all on the same page. Obviously, in the end, it's ultimately my decision, but it has to be supported by ownership as well. And we are all on the same page. Now, I know that there was some discussion around the his use of the word ultimately here. And if, some people saying that, he's saying that he can't really fire Josh because Anthony Precourt and ownership might not support it, yada, yada. That's not how I read it. He also said, but before I throw it to you here, he said, I understand we are in the culture of winning. And, to fans, it doesn't matter how. It's the most important thing. But I need to try and put common sense to the whole thing. If I have to be driven by the public opinion, we are not going in the right way. What I am doing is a thoughtful decision. What were your thoughts on that first part about Josh? Because again, I think from the fan perspective, especially the very vocal Wolf out, portion of the fan base, that was what they wanted to hear about. So naturally, that was included in the first line of questioning.
Of course, makes sense. I mean, that's the most burning topic for pretty much everyone in the fan base at this point. Like, what was Rodo going to do? Although the writing was already on the wall when he said, part of the reason why I came here was for Josh Wolf. I don't know why we can put magnifying glasses up to the word ultimately, but we can't just look right in front of us and see what the man has been saying the entire time. So I like the way he answered his question, answered the question and structured it out. Starts off with, I know that results matter. Like, of course he knows that. He is taking a little pressure off, letting it be understood that, yes, I don't want to be a losing club. That is not the case. So results matter. He understands nobody was satisfied with the way that the season went in regard to our win-loss and with a lot of other things going on with the club. But then after that, he goes on to talk about the qualities that he sees in Josh that he believes can help this team grow and fit the vision and mold that he eventually wants to create. And he talks about him being knowledgeable. He talks about him being committed. He talks about him being dedicated. He goes to add that little anecdote later on in the presser about after the Galaxy draw, where we don't get out of the stadium until 3:00 in the morning. Lord knows when Josh got home. And Josh was at the stadium the next day in his office before 9 a.m. getting back to work because he was crushed about it. And people have continuously said and thrown at Josh speculation, like that he's egotistical and he's arrogant. And it's like, well, Rodo goes on to say in this presser as well, he wants to learn. He says he has room to grow. So Josh has to be able to see that in himself. And I think anyone, whether you're Wolf out or Wolf in, can understand that every single coach has room to grow, the degree of which can be very different. But if Josh is willing to, again, take in all of the knowledge that Rodo can pass down to him, the expertise, the understanding, the experience that he's had throughout his entire illustrious career, then that's a great thing. And he wants to work with him. So I understand, again, also the results. People are frustrated. Rodo prefaces that. He makes it understood that ultimately we're going to be trying to win as many games as possible. And nowhere in here does he say, oh, yeah, we're tanking. We're throwing it in. We're changing everything up. So I was very encouraged, as I have been the entire time, with everything he said about this coaching staff. And then when you look at it from the standpoint of, okay, whether you agree with that decision or not, at least there is now not a void that needs to be filled and another project that needs to be undertook this offseason in order to change the direction of this club. We don't have to go do a new coach search, a new hire search, a full staff. Because if you're getting rid of Josh, I'm pretty sure you're cleaning the whole house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So if you're doing that, then you're going to have to clean the whole house and then bring a whole new staff in. So that is not on the table. We don't have to worry about that. So now it comes down to how he wants to build the club from the ground up and how we're going to execute during transfer window.
Yeah, and he continued about Josh. He said, I've been assessing the whole situation since I landed 3 months ago. And he
even
said,
before
again,
that.
Yeah, for
he
sure.
was doing that even before that.
Yeah. No, we heard, I forget whether it was from his own mouth or somebody else, but talking about how he had stayed up late when he was over in Europe to watch MLS match days, not just Austin. And we also know because he worked for Citigroup, and we've seen the videos of him when Claudio Reyna was at NYCFC and Rodo coming over to the States. Like he had at least some baseline knowledge of how this league works. He didn't just come in July blind to the mechanisms here in this league, whether it's the salary cap or the roster rules, what have you. He said, I've been assessing the whole situation. And again, he said, I understand results matter, but leaving those aside, what I can see is a very young coach with room for improvement, like any other coach in the league or in any other sport. Very dedicated, not only him, but the coaching staff as well. Very dedicated, very knowledgeable, very much committed to the city and to the club. Believe me, I come from some of the best clubs in the world, so I know what I'm talking about when referring to coaches. And I think we have a very good coach in Josh Wolf, and I think he's the right fit for us moving forward. I saw and heard some pushback from some fans. I think most, if not all of them, who have made themselves known to be, that they dislike this coach to varying degrees and would like to see him removed and the club go in a different direction in terms of the bench there. And some folks saying, again, just contradicting Rodo. I don't get how you can't. I get being skeptical about anybody, right? When you don't have that rapport, even if you admired his work at those big clubs overseas, you certainly weren't, I guess, unless you're like a Man City fan, you certainly weren't paying that much attention to Rodo Borrell. And now that he's here at our club, and if he is going against, if you're somebody who has been screaming about Wolf out for 6 months, maybe more, there's some folks who have said since season 1 that he's not the guy for the job. I definitely get that this guy coming in and completely contradicting what you thought the move should be. I get that can be like upsetting and distressing and confusing. Right. But I also just think it's, I can't fathom just going against what Rodo thinks, especially now that he has had some time to be here and observe all of the things that we as fans just don't have access to. And again, obviously, I've liked to say plenty in the past, interjecting my own coaching experience at the NCAA level to having some sort of extra knowledge compared to your average fan on how a program, a club, a franchise, works and all the things that go into preparing a team for a practice, for a season, during an off season, etc. So I find it a little bit short-sighted, and maybe that's not the right term. Maybe self-centered is more accurate to what I'm trying to get at here. I just don't get how any Austin FC fan can sit there and say that Rodolfo is making a mistake here now that he's had the time. If he came in last week and he was saying these things, then I think there would be more credence to having that healthy skepticism of Borrell. But he's been here. He's got the rapport with the coaches, and like he said, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to coaching. So I guess I was just like I said, I understand the disappointment for those who think that should be the priority in terms of offseason moves here.
Mhm.
But yeah, I can't get with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, he got to observe it up close during the worst stretch in our team's history. You know what I mean? Like, this is when shit was at its absolute worst. So he got to see it when everything was on fire and there was just cause to pull the trigger on firing Josh, and they decided not to. So, like, we can't keep twisting his words around and just trying to make it fit the narrative that whatever you want from it. Like, again, I'm not going to not have food on my kitchen table if Josh Wolf is not the coach of Austin FC.
Right.
That's not going to happen to me. So it's like, I don't have that like personal investment like that. So it's just like, whether you like it or not, the man is here saying what he's saying. He has seen it firsthand, and you get to see the real true colors of somebody when shit's bad. You know what I mean? When shit's down. And he just kept talking about Josh's commitment to winning, his dedication, how devastated he was when we drew Galaxy, and the impact of momentum, and how unfortunate a lot of the games were this year. He specifically references the Dallas game, and a great match that we played, pretty much outplayed him the entire game. You get the red card, you get the fucking miss off the crossbar, and you lose the game. And then we go into Seattle, and then you have the disaster with Drew Fisher. Fuck Drew Fisher. So it's like, he touched on all the things that would have been fine points to understand if they were going to fire him. But it's like, we're not firing. He's here, and we're moving forward with it. So I know at the end of the day, ultimately everybody wants this team to win, and we can disagree on how we're going about that. But this is the man who is going to be making those decisions, and I'm on board with him. I'm on board with what he's saying. I'm on board with the plan. We have a plan, and Josh is clearly part of that. Yeah.
Well, again, I can get maybe I'm just being repetitive here at this point, but like I get the disappointment, right? If you've invested so much of your fandom into trying to oust the coach, and then the guy who, like, it's one thing for us as fans to bicker back and forth, whether you're on a social media site, you're on Slack, you're talking with your buddies, right? But it's because ultimately none of us fucking know shit relatively, right? But then when the guy who does 100% know more than all of us combined, right, goes against what you feel so strongly about, I get that can be distressing.
Of course.
So
there should be comfort in this fact that this club has a plan, and the goal at the end of the day is not having a fluke season where you go to the Western Conference Finals and get smoked. It is sustained success year over year. So that's the vision.
Well, and let's talk a little bit more about, because he continued with the same timeline, right, that we got in the presser after the Fagundes trade, right, where he said it's going to take 2 or 3 windows to fully develop the roster into, or to get the roster to a place where it's fulfilling his vision for what he can do, what he can build under the MLS salary cap structure. Nowhere in the 2 big press conferences we've had with him sitting up there by himself, right? We've had 3 total. He had the welcome one with Anthony Precourt, just the 2 by himself, right? Nowhere has he indicated, nor has the club, that just because he's saying that it's going to take multiple transfer windows to fully develop this roster and revamp it. You can tell me if I missed it somewhere. Nowhere has he said last Saturday in February, right? Opening day in MLS, that this team is not trying to win. Like, this is not some tank job. And I think fans, regardless of where you stand on the coach, when it comes to Rodo's roster build, we can't let the desire for the instant gratification, right, the instant winning, we can't let that overshadow the reality that it takes. Like, again, if we had no salary cap, and this was like most leagues in the world, and I think Rodo even said this to some effect, he was like, we could completely overhaul this roster in one window if we were somewhere else, but we're not. And so even if we have all this cap space and roster, spots opening up on the roster, whether they're senior or supplemental, that doesn't mean that we're going to for lack of a better term, blow the load here in December and completely fill up that salary cap again with contracts that extend beyond 1 year. Because then again, like he said it so many times, all of our cap space was tied up when he got here. And also to people saying like, or I guess questioning his resume or saying like, what has he done since he got here? He's made one move. And I guess you could say that the Hedges trade, he was here when that went down. So we can also lump the Hedges trade in there. But the biggest thing he's done was trade away Diego. And again, we know that was not a move to strengthen this team for a playoff run. But we are now approaching the timeline where like that move, this is where we're about to see the payoff, where the free agency opens and the trade window opens and the draft happens. And we're able to use that cap space that he generated, the extra cap space alongside the contracts coming off the books and the allocation money being reset for the league year. So, I mean we have to have a little bit of patience. And I also am a little bit confused by it. It seems like some fans take the 100-year war thing seriously, when that's like it's a marketing ploy, right? It's Matthew McConaughey speak. That is not the plan. It's not 100 years till we're good or sustainably successful. It's trying to illustrate like it's a long process. We're not just in this, like you said, for one year, whether you think last year was a fluke or not. Right. Because I see some folks saying, no, our team is good. We are that good. And it's whatever reason, most of them say the coach that we fell back to earth this year. And he said we overperformed last year. He also said, I think you could make the argument we underperformed this year. And the truth with this current roster is somewhere in the middle. And I think that falls into line with how I view the season.
I agree. I mean, I got swept up in it too. We said at the beginning of the season, we thought we were a top 4 team in the West. And
I had a second again.
We're just clearly not. So like, it's fair. Like that has happened. And I do think that given all of the injuries, all of the dysfunction, the Claudio Reyna shit, the Seattle game, like we did get unlucky and underperform this year. Like that's a fact. Also, I mean, you're talking about these transfer windows. He keeps citing global market. He keeps citing national market. So with all these different leagues in play and everything kind of circulating there, I know that he has names in mind. When they become available is a different story. But he knows when they're available. He knows when contracts are up. He knows when they can do loan deals with every single league. And we'll find out where these scouts are stationed and where their ties are and where they've come from. So like it's a process. And look, patience is just going to be part of being an Austin FC fan for the next 3 transfer windows. And
even if the team starts winning right away.
Exactly. This is it. You have to just again, like it, don't like it. You're just going to have to accept it with part of being a fan of this club. We're not LAFC. We're not just trotting out there every day. Got a better roster, and we're just getting better players all the time too. Like it's going to take us a little while.
Trying to get there.
That's the standard, and you want to be there. So patience is just going to be part of the game right now with Austin FC. And I know that's difficult. I want to win games. I want to talk shit to opposing fans. I want to Houston, they suck. I want Dallas to suck. Like I want to get all of that. Of course.
We did plenty of that last year.
So a little patience. And I ultimately think it's going to be worth it. And I think it's going to be even more satisfying when we do reach that echelon that we want to be at.
Yeah, and I actually think it's even more encouraging when it comes to that, because you and I more frequently, I think, point to LAFC as like that pinnacle franchise, right? And I think for the first team competitions and structure, that is certainly the case. But he, without naming them, very clearly referenced not only Jim Curtin and his first years with the Union and how below average they were, similar to Josh's results here, and talking about look what their patience got him right now. Jim Curtin, if he had not signed that new contract, would be one of the most in-demand coaches in the league. And who knows where else, in the world he might have been able to command a job.
For sure. And I mean, if folks in Philadelphia can be patient, then
Well, I don't know about their fans, but
we can try.
yeah, I mean, but then the other part was talking about, and I think this question was actually from Landon, and it was a good one, asking about the academy and that pathway, and what kind of insights he could give us into, what are your thoughts, Rodo, on, where we can improve, what can we expect to see, in terms of your footprint on the academy level, given your extensive history building the academies at those giant clubs. And he kind of danced around the question a little bit. At one point he was like, we can talk about this for hours. And Landon chimed in and was like, yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So he didn't give us much there, but again, he did point to, without naming them, Philadelphia's academy. And we've talked about their roster build and how they have built their depth, not necessarily through those, trading for international spots and getting guys like Stipe Butte and Mateusz Bogusz on great deals relative to the salary cap. Philadelphia has built their depth through their academy and their homegrown players and those types of guys who don't count against the cap and maybe aren't your best 11 caliber players, but they're your Owen Wolf caliber players who are very, very much starters in this league, or at worst, rotation guys who you shouldn't feel bad about starting as long as they're, in their proper positions. But Philly has like 5 or 6 Owen Wolves at various levels. Yeah. Obviously, they've sold the Aronson brothers, etc. They've got McGlynn there still. But to see Rodo, saying like that is his model, I think modeling Austin after Philadelphia is an even better idea than modeling ourselves after LAFC. And so it was very exciting for me to hear him reference them without naming them, both in terms of the coach and in terms of building that academy pipeline and second team pipeline. And he also noted, he said it took Philly 10 years to get to the point where they are now, and we're on year 3. So again, you talk about being patient. I think we have to be even more patient with that side of the club. Again, because I'm relying on his knowledge and his timeline much more than what my dumbass can think.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it hints to his knowledge of roster structure, salary cap, and MLS. The homegrown guys, like you mentioned, don't cost against your salary cap. So that is a huge advantage to try to take advantage of, for lack of a better word than advantage. So for him to talk about that, I think just again, that is the knowledge of the league. That is the understanding of how you build a year in and year out contender. And it takes a little time, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing that got me really excited, and I know that some people pointed to this and said it reminded them of a certain politician's type of rhetoric, like, oh, you won't believe we have the best types of this and that. But again, I'm taking Borrell at his word until he provides us a reason to not trust him and trust in the plan that he is putting forth here and organizing since he's been here. He said there is demand like we couldn't believe from coaches and players alike to come be a part of this project here in Austin and building this young club. And again, I thought it was interesting on the coaching part of it, especially because you're sitting here backing the current staff that we have. But when he said names like you couldn't believe, referring to players, which makes me very excited and probably getting my hopes too high for the potential caliber of player we could see coming in. And again, to your point earlier, I think in the summer is where we're going to get the bang type of signings, right? The eye-popping guys. And again, maybe it's not a household name in terms of global football, right? But a guy like Denny Bouanga was not a household name to my knowledge in global football. And now he has taken this league by storm in the last year and a half. And I think the summer timeline kind of lines up with what we've seen, of course, based on the global football schedule. European leagues come to a close right before our summer transfer window opens. And if you look at the history of Austin FC, right, we got Seba in 2021 during that summer window. We got Moussa Jite. We got Emiliano Rigoni. And putting aside the track record of those latter two guys, those were big signings in terms of our roster structure, 2 DPs and a U22 signing. So So again, and obviously we've talked about the roster. We will, as the season concludes here and gets into the offseason, we'll of course have more episodes examining the cap, the free agents that we do have, and deciding what you and I would do with those guys. But yeah, man, I got a little jolt of adrenaline when I heard him talk about, you wouldn't believe. And again, maybe I'm getting sucked in, and maybe we get to the end of next summer's transfer window and we're not quite in the spot where you and I think we will be in terms of a player personnel, a talent standpoint on this roster. But I'm buying in.
I mean, look at the names that are already here. Look who just came here. Like, look, I mean, it's right fucking there. Is the best player of all time just came here to play in fucking Miami. And then again, if you look at it, even when, taking that out of the count, because obviously Messi is the outlier because there's only one in existence. But then you look at Rodo, the man just won the treble. We looked it up before the show. Only the second time in over 20 years that a team in EPL has done that. So and then he comes to Austin FC. Like that is massive. So I again, until I see that he has been lying about something, you have to believe that. Just look at Miami. They got Busquets too. They got Jordi Alba. Like dudes, I do believe dudes want to come. And depending on what level in their career they're at is one thing I would say, but the name quality of it all is it has to be there. Messi just opened the floodgates. Doors are open.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if we're going around in circles here or not, but he also, there was a question about just using Emiliano Rigoni as an example, and have you considered buying him down or what have you, right, to free up that DP spot? I thought it showed a little bit, or not a little bit. I thought it showed again how deep Rodo is in the rules and regulations, and I imagine he could recite to you the cap sheet and all of our figures and such, how our allocation money is used, traded out, taken in, what have you. Because he's talking about not just buying down Rigoni and how we couldn't do that this season because all of our allocation money is already allocated when he got here, but also talking about the expenses you would have to pay buying him down as a DP and coming in with a transfer fee. There's other rules around that. So again, and I think, and he was, I wouldn't say taunting, but I think maybe kind of pushing the Austin press pool to step their game up in terms of your knowledge about these things, and in not so many words saying hey, before you come to me with a question like that, where it's this literally cannot be done right now. Why don't you also learn about it yourself if you're going to sit in this room with me? And again, I didn't take it as he was being an asshole, but I think it's kind of just hey man, you guys have to do your part too, and not make me explain rules and regulations to you every time you come in here.
Yeah, you better come correct. I don't think he was being an asshole, especially if he's just pointing out a fact. If you're asking a question that literally can't happen, then you're just wasting this man's time. And I don't think he put it in a way. He said, I'm just going to make the assumption that all of you know.
Yeah. Since you're here.
Since you are in this room, I'm going to assume you are salary cap experts. Therefore, you can relate to me and to understand where I'm coming from with everything that I'm trying to do. Now, look, again, he also said, I'm not going to give in to fan pressure early to make these dramatic changes or drastic changes that I don't personally align with just to appease people. And, he's got big hurdles to overcome, right? So in the Wolf Out camp, there's obviously many pro Diego voices, and pro Diego people are on both sides, Wolf in guys, Wolf out guys, whatever you want to label people. The Diego trade hurt a lot of people, and I think it hurt people more so when they made it into, well, we could have, it's either Diego or Wolf. You know what I mean? There was this faction where it's we had to make a decision between these two people, and they chose Diego, and now he is now reinforcing that. And to your point, if you were wanting the coach to be fired and then it comes out that it's not going to happen, you probably lose a little trust in this guy. You probably are like, all right, well, fuck this dude now. So he does have these two hurdles to overcome with that section of the fan base. And again, that's just going to take time and patience. And we can't just judge this man just based on his Diego trade, right? Like even when the trade went down, we did the emergency pod. The most important thing to us was then being like, okay, well, who's coming?
Yeah.
Because this was one of our very few really talented guys in this league. So just a little time. And I thought, it definitely stood out multiple times where he was like, he made it clear. You guys know my resume. You guys know where I come from. You guys know the coaches I've been around. So like he was establishing that. And I don't think that it was something where he was being like arrogant with it. He's just saying, this is how I am approaching this because of X, Y, and Z from where I've been.
Yeah. Well, I think it 100% applies to what they're discussing in that room at the press conference, his resume, right? Like, and because he hasn't been here that long, there's really only that one move. And again, you can say two if you want to say he was also responsible for the Man Hedges deal.
Yep.
There's not a track record here at Austin FC for him to fall back on and to justify his words with. So he's going to continue to use the massive resume that he has until he has the results, the tangible results on the roster and trying to revamp this thing and get it going in the right direction again for the sustainable success.
And this club doesn't have any tangible evidence to fall back on that we can achieve sustainable success without Rodo right now. So it's like we don't have that to fall back on either. So it's like you kind of have to just, it's not a faith thing entirely per se, because, he's right there. You see him. He's right in front of you. He's providing you, facts from his mouth, whatever he believes. Yeah. So, but there is part of it where it's just being like, okay, you gotta do a little trust fall here. And I think this is a good guy to try to catch you. Somebody that I caught by. So that's what I'm taking from it. Like, it's not, I don't think he was trying to be divisive. I don't think he was trying to, and I thought he went out of his way to really, talk to Jorge and be like, Jorge, I know you love this club. Like I couldn't decipher everything he was saying, but he said, you love this team. I know that. And you're dissatisfied, and that's okay. We're trying to move forward and build something.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought, again, that's another reason why I wish I could understand all of that, because it seemed like I got that feeling in the first presser too, after the trade, that like he and Jorge kind of established a rapport there. And then you saw more of that. And he said, to your point, he was like, like I have a responsibility to guys like Jorge, who are clearly like, even though Jorge, has the job to do reporting there, he also very clearly wears his fandom on his sleeve, right? He wants the team to win.
If we want to look in between the lines and try to find things that, are being unspoken, like I think he's going out of his way to try to make some sort of alliance with Jorge. Sure. Because he just told you who his boy is. Like, Josh is my boy. And like, I can be your boy too. So like, I feel like there was something there. And obviously Jorge is such a powerful voice in the space, and he understands that. And he understands the frustrated fans that, listen to Jorge and take in Jorge's content. So I think that I really appreciated the fact that he went out of his way. And it did seem like an awesome conversation, and one that I actually felt like Rodo was probably even more honest in, because he's speaking his native tongue. Like, you know what I mean? Sure. Like you can be choosing and picking your words, but you're speaking a second language. So I would have loved to have heard that. And if Jorge or somebody could break it down or whatever, there's some fucking translator.
I asked Landon today, I said, man, I know you're mostly fluent in Spanish, and is there a Patreon level for Moon Tower that you could create where I just throw you money to translate all of Rodo's Spanish conversations in these press conferences, just so, my white ass can take it all in, because I want to hear everything this man has to say. And I imagine a good bit of it was repetitive from the English answers. But still, again, like there's, like you said, there's a little rapport building there. And I think to that end, like we know that Josh Wolf is not near the top of the most like media savvy or media friendly in terms of his comfortability up there, the way he reacts to any questions he perceives as slights. So certainly he could maybe take a lesson or two from Rodo in that arena as well. And I think the club could benefit from making Rodo more of a frontward-facing figure in the Austin FC media because he deals with it so much better. And unsurprisingly, because look where he comes from.
Of course. I also would appreciate that.
Yeah. Anything else for you on this press conference? We talked almost 40 minutes about this shit.
Let me check the old notes here, huh?
He brought notes. E stands for evolving.
I like how he was put a little heat on MLS too. Was like, if we want to be considered with all these top leagues, shit's got to change, baby. Like he's talking about the travel, the different temperatures, the degrees. It's like one day you're playing 110. So I did like that. He was like, look, like, this is the environment that we exist in. This is not the same as any league in Europe. This is not the same. Like this is where it exists. And there's all these different factors at play that we are accounting for. They're on the table. We are taking them into account. So I like that as well. And that's it for my notes.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've already probably circled back on things multiple times. And I think anything else I have to add would just do that even more. So we can go ahead and move on. Let's talk a little bit about that offseason calendar that dropped yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. Yesterday morning on Tuesday. We've got the offseason calendar, or most of the important dates here. Nothing in terms of, training camp, preseason games, or, 2024 schedule quite yet. I think that I want to say our schedule live stream last year was in December. So we'll have to, we've got plenty of time between now and then to figure out when that's going to come out. But in terms of what they did give us here, Wednesday, November 22nd is the deadline for clubs to submit bona fide offers. And, if you remember back to us talking about the cap structure, the roster rules and regulations, the bona fide offers are going out to your players that are, I believe, out of contract, but not official free agents, right? And we know there's restrictions on free agency. Friday, December 1st is the club deadline to exercise contract options. So, your clubs must submit to the league office which players options will be exercised, which ones will be declined. And then there is a delay on those deadlines for teams that are still, competing in the MLS playoffs. Wednesday, December 6th through Saturday, December 9th. That's going to be the MLS College Showcase. So your combine, if you will. December 6th through the 9th. Monday, December 11th is when the trade window opens. So that will lift the roster freeze that went into effect in September. So clubs that's the first time you could start adjusting your roster after, of course, the option decisions there. And of course, you're only trading with teams in the league. And any trades that happen there, the roster decisions will be publicized by the individual clubs, is noted here in the press release. The next day is when end-of-year waivers, or that process, is conducted. It's reverse order of the 2023 finish. So I don't have the standings up right now. The Shield standings, we're probably 6th or 7th or something like that in terms of the top of the waiver order. So that is 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, December 12th. Players that are eligible for selection are those who do not meet the minimum requirements for re-entry or free agency. I believe the waiver process is how we got Alfonso Ocampo Chavez last year. So that is, was great for us in FC2 this year. Still playing, AOC out there playing a role. Didn't do much for the first team here this year. So it remains to be seen. We'll be keeping our eye out on December 12th. For any waivers or waiver players that Austin may or may not pick up the next day. So this Monday, December 11th kind of kicks off the whole thing.
It was hot.
December 13th, 1 p.m. Eastern, so noon Central, free agency will open in Major League Soccer. So clubs may engage with players other than their own that are eligible for free agency. And again, free agency eligible players are out of contract and option declined, who are at least 24 years old, and who have completed a minimum of 5 years of service in the league. So again, I know we talked about, I know, shaking your head. We talked about that extensively in August. Again, that's another rule that I think, we want to see the reins loosened on. Like we want these players to be able to be a little bit more empowered in where they get to, choose where their next home is if they're staying in the league.
Did you mention when are rule changes for the league?
So I'm not quite sure when they actually. Let me see if I
because again, I mean, like we haven't broken this down like all the way down in regards to the rules and salary cap restrictions and stuff, and we still understand. Like I understand why they were initially put in place and the structure that needed to be created in order for the league to just survive and continue to like be an actual fucking entity.
Right.
Now, as we move into this new space, it's time to update these things because like that is a fucking ridiculous rule.
Yeah,
it's absurd. Yeah. I don't. So again, I hope when's rule change votes and stuff like that meetings.
So I don't actually know when, like, I don't even know if they do have owners meetings or when the league meetings is, where I assume your sporting directors, your ownership would all be meeting somewhere. I'm not familiar with that. I know that the roster rules and regulations page for this season was posted literally the day before the opening match. It was Friday, February 24th. So it may be the day before the season before we get this, the 2024 roster rules and regulations page and able to see any changes. I imagine that the big changes, of course, will be announced with whatever comes out of that, the winter meetings, or whatever they call it in this league. Again, that's another thing I guess we're going to be learning about this offseason as year by year we continue to get deeper and deeper into this league.
Mm-hmm.
The day after free agency opens, Thursday, December 14th at noon Central, re-entry process, stage 1. We got 2 stages of that.
All right.
That takes place, conducted in reverse order of the 2023 season finish, and that considers postseason performance. Obviously, Austin doesn't have to worry about this year. Eligible players for stage 1 are those who are at least 22 years old, have a minimum of 1 service year in MLS, and who are not eligible for free agency. An out-of-contract player who has received a bona fide offer from his current club will not be eligible for the re-entry draft. And the re-entry draft is where Austin traded, I believe, $50K in GAM and their spot, which was in the 20s last year, for the number 1 spot with DC. And they took DC's ex-player. They took Sophie Jafal, who, he may be back in that re-entry process this year. I don't know, but
he didn't come back.
Yeah, we'll see if Austin, again, like I don't think it's far-fetched to think that Rodolfo and anybody who's helping him on the domestic side of things would maybe have some targets once they get the player pool for, waivers for the re-entry process, what have you, to, again, fringe roster moves at best here through those 2 processes. But I'm not surprised if the team is active there. Again, there's minimal activity league-wide across those 2 things, but we were active last year, and again, this is where you find those guys that can be supplemental and not count against your cap.
Yeah, I think that we would be smart to do that. I mean, we can take whatever help we can get or try to swap players for players and just like try to get an improvement. As negligible as that improvement may be, anywhere we can get it, we'll take it. So I would anticipate as well that we will be active in that portion. It's also my birthday. So maybe you can get a little birthday present. Austin FC gift.
Yeah, some re-entry process Verde smoke. You never know.
Austin FC drafts Mbappe.
Tuesday, December 19th, 2 p.m. Central. That is the MLS Super Draft. Austin going to have a higher pick than we would like. But depending on, how many players, it's a differing number every single year. How many players get that Generation Adidas tag? Those guys are your priority targets there, just based on what they can do salary cap wise alone.
And look, we haven't done too bad there.
No, not at all.
I think we've made some good picks.
Yeah. Again, jury is still out on CJ at the MLS level. Obviously, you and I are believers, and I think a lot of the Austin fan base high on what number 19 can bring to this club, at least over the next 2 years. Kip Keller. It's a big old shrug at this point, actually, we talk about Kip Keller here in a little bit. And then Danny, like, that was maybe Claudio's best move because he was not the projected number 1 overall pick. And look what happened.
Yeah.
Reentry process stage 2 will take place on December 21st. Stage 2, conducted in the same order as stage 1, consists of MLS players who were not selected in stage 1. And again, the slight variations between the two stages. Again, to your point, maybe some of these things over the next couple years evaporating, but we'll see. Again, you can't just wipe the slate clean of all of these unconventional rules, because you can't have this thing crumbling down after this league has worked really hard to get to where they are right now.
Absolutely. Patience.
Well, let's talk a little bit of playoff last business day here. Western Conference Final coming up. We have the date and time, Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Central, kickoff there in Denver. If I recall correctly, they play at U Denver up there, the Rapids 2. Of course, Rapids 2, we're very familiar, faced them 3 times this year. Unvictorious in all 3. Drew them once, I think, in that second match, 3-3. Again, get up the 3-0 lead that we had built up through that first half. Colorado, 66 points through their 28 regular season matches, a goal differential of plus 33. The only argument I would have heard about Colorado not being the best team in Next Pro was Crown Legacy, who matched them on points over in the Eastern Conference, but they got upset by Crew 2 this last weekend. So I think Colorado, certainly the best team remaining on paper, and I think probably the best team here in Next Pro, but Austin FC, 2 straight playoff upsets, seeding-wise. So I think, anything can happen here. We know about Colorado, right? We know about Remy Cabral, Golden Boot, tied a trio of guys with 19 goals at the Next Pro level this year. But Remy's got 19 goals and an assist in 20 games played and just 16 starts out of those 20. So he's got 20 contributions in 20 games. Then we know the guys, lesser known names, less recognizable, but we're certainly familiar with them after this season. Yosuke Tanya, Oliver Larraz, Marlon Vargas, Calvin Harris could be active for this game. Although I am hoping for Austin FC 2's sake, we'll take anything we can get here. Colorado obviously out. They are playing in Dallas on Saturday, and we know from the game that we played against Rapids 2-3 weeks ago with the first team, guys like Calvin Harris, Darren Yappy, like a couple of these guys who have played down with their 2 team this year have been up with the first team here late in the season. So we'll see if those guys are available. Darren Yappy was with Rapids 2 in the semifinal matchup. He was the lone goal scorer in the 84th minute as the Rapids 2 took down San Jose 2. San Jose got that red card in the 2nd minute and almost held up for the full 90, but conceded late on. So certainly no lack of talent for this Rapids side. And of course, our second reunion with the grill master, Jackson Balti, hoping to get the better of Jackson this time. Let's talk a little bit about us. I believe Micah Burton will still be out with the U17s playing those international friendlies, getting ready for the U17 World Cup, which takes place next month. We also know that we will not have the services of Chris Pinkham in any capacity after getting sent off on the sideline this past Sunday night against Tacoma. So here's where I said we might talk about Kip Keller. Yep. With Chris Pinkham out, the center back options, I think, are, of course, Joe and Sal. And then I think Alonso Ramirez becomes your backup center back at that point. Yeah. But we know that Kip Keller was on the first team injury report for multiple weeks. He came off that injury report 2 or 3 games ago. So could that be that he was officially loaned back down? We didn't get any news of that, and he's just not showing up on the injury report because he's technically with Austin FC 2? Maybe. Okay. But I choose to believe that Kip Keller is ready to go and that he may travel with the team to Colorado this weekend and be available off the bench. Any thoughts on that? Again, I was thinking about it.
I could totally see it. I don't think Colorado's going to send guys up. I think that this is something that, as a franchise, they probably want to go do. Win an MLS Next Pro would probably go a long way with their fan base, as upset that they are right now.
Sure.
So I think that I probably don't think that they rotate like that. I'd like to see Kip. Shit, man. I mean, like, send CJ too. Like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Why not? I
mean,
like,
we're off. We're off this weekend.
Yeah, let him go fucking play. Like, you know, and then I hope he plays and starts in our decision day game too. Like, you know, like get these guys some minutes, let them run. Yeah. I'd love to see Kip there. I think that'd be a great addition, obviously. In what capacity, you know, depending on his injury, if he can provide something. You know, Pinkham obviously was more of a depth rotational piece. We've seen the emergence of Deonda now. So I feel like he's kind of fallen out of favor there. Like you said, Alonzo Ramirez, we can really move him around a bunch of different places. He's a fantastic player. He's been really great in the playoffs thus far. So I can get on board with it. Why not? A little Kippy sighting?
Yeah. I mean, again, even maybe just off the bench, he's probably not match fit. He hasn't played for a while now in terms of 90 minutes fit. But I think having him on the bench there, say you get a lead again. What if you go up 3-0 like we did the first game? Again, CJ was there. He played a big part in that as well. But if you get a lead in Colorado and you need to defend, putting Kip Keller back there for the last 20 minutes, if he's ready to go, there are worse options for sure.
For sure.
So it'll be interesting to see if the club brings anybody else different from what we saw in Tacoma this past Sunday. Looking at that lineup that we saw, Damian and Nat, I think he's there for sure, right? I think Sal, Joe, Charlie, and Shake that's the back four. Alonzo, Cristo, Bobo, Val, David, Sebas. I don't know if I make any changes here.
I don't think that I would. We're rolling right now, baby. Like, shit is working. I think you got to roll with it. This is a great Colorado club, but we owe them. We definitely owe them. So it's going to be a great match. I'm really looking forward to it. I would have loved to have watched a replay or something of the Colorado San Jose matchup just to see what they were doing that allowed them to keep this ridiculous offense out of the net for 80 something minutes with only 10 men. Yeah. So I would love to have been able to witness that. And I hope that we're looking at that film to see some stuff that we could potentially pull out here versus this team. But I think we're going to win, man. We're hot right now. Like, we're taking care of business. Like,
they're in form when you need to be.
Exactly. This is the right time to be, to have bounced back from, a difficult ending to the season.
Yeah, man. And I think, if this team carries on, and even if they just make the title game, but much less win it, we're going to look back and we're going to thank Benny Feilhaber for kickstarting this team, because we were coming into that first playoff match with hardly any juice at all.
Absolutely.
And he created that spark.
Yeah. I mean, look, and we got the best keeper in the league. And in these playoffs games like this, that's huge for us.
Best defense in the league. I know Kip was a part of it for a large part of the season, but he was also away from this team for a large part of the season. And it hasn't mattered how Coach Utley shifts this back line around, right? Whether it's Joe on the right and Pinkham at center back, or you flip those guys, or Anthony Deonda comes in. Like, they really haven't skipped a beat.
As long as you got Joe and Sally.
Yeah.
You got Kevin, Joe, and Sally Maz back there. You got to be feeling good about it.
I'm with you. All right, one thing left to do. All right, quickest one ever, 2-1.
I didn't want you to take it.
All right.
I didn't want you to take it because now you're pretty much locked into 1-0, right? Because you can't go.
Nope. I'm going 2-2.
Okay.
And check this out. Let me write a little script for you here. Okay.
Oh my God.
In the first 90, 1-1. We go to extra time, right? Colorado scores. We don't slump our shoulders. We bounce back, get the equalizer in stoppage time to send it to Pens, and then the best keeper. Not just in the league, right? Damian Loss in a shootout.
The best keeper in the world.
Then we win.
All right.
We win.
That's a great script. I'd watch that movie.
So 2-2 and a penalty shootout win for me. 2-1 for E. And like always, we don't care how you get it done, boys. Just bring us home the 3 points. Survive in advance. If these guys do so, that means we have a date in the MLS Next Pro title game the following weekend. So 8:30 p.m. Central here on Sunday. Of course, we'll be recording episode 99 of the North End podcast, so that we will splice that recap in there. And man, looking forward to it. I got a little adrenaline going thinking about this, man. Western Conference Final, let's go.
That's right, baby. Playoff soccer. Let's do it.
All right, let's close out episode 98 with the betting picks and a quick recap of the weekend. We weren't the bets weren't done on Sunday's episode, and luckily FC2, man, that's like all we got at this point. It was a rough week for the bets. Austin plus 165, no sir. Seattle even odds, nope. Dallas minus 120, now they get a draw, of course. Chicago even odds, nope. Shutout at home. RSL minus 115 at home. Nope. Get beat by Sporting KC. Red Bulls with a minus 190 2-unit hammer. That does come through. So salvage a little bit there. Nice. That NFL 6-leg teaser you gave out, 5 out of 6. And it sucked because the one you missed was the Thursday night.
Yeah.
So no probation though. 5 out of 6. We live with it. And then Austin FC2, they came in at plus 190 and they do cash that for us. So negative 3.05 units on the week. That puts us negative 32.86 units on the season. But hey, man, like we have all year, through the ups and a lot more downs, we press on. So I'll get us started here. We do have 3 matches in the league this week, and we're going to bet on all of them, So I'm going to start us off. Nashville hosting the Revolution. This is in Nashville, and this, of course, is not the decision day match for any of these teams. So these teams still have 2 games to play. Nashville can catch New England for the 5th seed. They would need some help as well, but this is a true 6-pointer here. So I think Nashville, in front of the home fans, going to be rolling a full lineup out there, giving it their all and fighting for this playoff seeding. So I like Nashville minus 135 at home against New England, who, again, New England, not in great form, 4 points from their last 5 matches.
No, they fired the coach, and they've had a rough stretch too. Probably started with the Alex Ring equalizer.
They fired two coaches.
Yeah, that's right. I like it. Nashville, tough at home. I'm going to my RSL boys. I've been a fan of them all season. Plus 145, hosting the Galaxy. Galaxy are also E for eliminated.
On the road at the Galaxy.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. At the Galaxy. Galaxy also E for eliminated. So we'll take RSL plus 145.
Yeah, I like that, attacking the team. Again, RSL still fighting for playoff seeding. They can, again, with some help, get as high as, I think the 3 seed, potentially the 2 here. I don't recall all the matchups between seeds 2, where LAFC is, and 6, where RSL is. But 5 points separate the 2 and the 6 seed here. So RSL with 2 games remaining. They've got a game in hand on everybody above them. So I like that. Like you mentioned, Galaxy eliminated. So I'm with you on that one. And then the rescheduled Dallas and Colorado match is set for this Saturday as well. That is in Frisco. So I'm going to take Dallas to win and over 1.5 on the total in this one. I'm setting myself up for a 1-0 Dallas win here because they don't score a ton, but I didn't like the odds on Dallas to win. It was like minus 240 or 250, which it should be. Mm-hmm. So Dallas plus over 1.5 in the game is minus 140. So I'm going to lock that one in, and I'll toss it back to you. And we're going to give some extra NFL picks here, and neither of us on probation, and we're going to collab for some of these, I think.
Absolutely. We're going to Patrick Mahomes, 267.5 pass yards over under. We're going to take the over prop versus Denver Thursday night game. Travis Kelce, questionable right now. I would be pretty shocked if he doesn't play, though. So we like that figure. I think it's baked in there. Yeah,
I mean, it seems like to me that Kelsey's going to play. He practiced yesterday. Listed Q, but we'll see. I think even without Kelsey, 267 just feels a little bit low to me, given how bad that Broncos defense has been.
That's been a surprise this year.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to stick with the quarterback passing yards props then here, and look, I know that this is one of the worst teams in the league right now, but 180.5 passing yards for Justin Fields. Minnesota coming to town. Minnesota struggling mightily. Now there's no Justin Jefferson there. So, again, Justin Jefferson doesn't have much to do with Justin Fields' passing yards prop. Khalil Herbert going to be out, right? Roshan Johnson still did not practice today. So run game, again, Justin Fields always, he's kind of the RB1 for that team anyways, but 180 and the hook there on the passing yards. I like the over against Minnesota. I've got him projected for more than 200, so I'm going to lock that in at -115.
I like that too. I mean, DJ Moore in regards to yards after contact or yards after catch, excuse me. I mean, Justin's air yardage only needs to be 6-7 yards, and he can get 40 yards. So I like that. All right, we're running the big teaser again, boys.
Let's do it.
7 points we're getting on a 6-pick teaser. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Should I give the original line and then what we teased it to?
You can. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. All right, so we got first game up, Kansas City hosting Denver. Kansas City initially -10.5. We tease it down to -3.5. Lock it in. Chicago +2.5 at home versus that Minnesota team that we just discussed a little bit. You tease it up to +9.5. Lock it in. Los Angeles Rams -7 hosting Arizona Cardinals. Tease it on down to a pick 'em. Rams to win. Lock it in. Philadelphia -7 at New York Jets. Tease it down to pick 'em. Philly to win. Miami -13.5. Get that down to 6.5. Hosting a god-awful, probably the worst team in the league, Carolina Panthers. Lock that in. And then we're going to go ahead and tease the over-under in the New England-Las Vegas game from 41.5 to 48.5 and take the under. You get all of that at +600.
Trying to grab big batches of units here at the end of the season, E. So I like it. That is our first collab teaser of the season. So hoping to get back on track. We've got that 6-way teaser. E's got Mahomes over 267.5 passing yards. I've got Justin Fields over 180 in the hook. Both of those are -115. And then our in-league picks here, I've got Nashville -135 hosting the Revs. I've got Dallas and over 1.5 on the total hosting the Rapids. That's -140. And E's got RSL on the road +145 against the eliminated LA Galaxy. Those are the week 39 betting picks. And that will wrap up episode 98 of the North End podcast. If you've got 5 extra seconds to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. If you've got a buddy who likes Austin FC and likes podcasts, make sure they're listening to the North End podcast. Get us in your friends' content rotation. We would appreciate that as well. And of course, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Help us grow the podcast in that manner. If you are subscribed already, you can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up button, like the video. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords. Atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the new scouting department of Austin FC. We will be back on Sunday recapping Austin FC 2's Western Conference final clash with Rapids 2, talking the nonsense and, of course, everything else that happens in between now and then in the Austin FC universe. Episode 98 in the books. That means episode 100 coming this time next week. I'm excited for it, man.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll have to do something.
Oh, we will do something. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll see you back here on Sunday. Until then, he's E. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.